Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the live radar. We'll have a look at the UK weather warnings, as we do have some yellow warnings for rain put in force. We'll also have a look at the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF, the GFS Ensembles, and we'll finally have a look at the UK Met Office run as well. Make sure you check out my first video of the day, where I did have a little teaser look at the winter, having a look at some of the climate drivers for the upcoming 2021-2022 winter. And just a little hint before you go watch that, I do sort of see that we could be seeing a little bit of a colder winter compared to the last few years. But make sure you do go check that out, and I'll link that in the description and in the top right. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and do remember to follow on Twitter as well, the links in the description. So if we do have a look at the live radar, you can see at the moment we do have a lot of heavy rain around in some spots. Now, the big low pressure system that moved through yesterday in the south brought a squall line through, and some very heavy rain at times. Has now cleared many areas of England and Wales. However, it is lingering in northern England and southern and eastern Scotland, with the weather front moving away. You can see the spiral of rain just out into the northeast around Scarborough area and into Yorkshire. That is where the centre of the low is, and you can see its weather front, secluded front, now spiralling around, bringing quite heavy rain into Aberdeenshire, generally eastern and southeastern Scotland and northern England as well. It should clear over the coming hours, but we still do have a yellow warning in force for some rain in the north. Elsewhere, still some heavy squally showers around, but generally they are moving quite through in a brisk wind, and should be slowly clearing over the coming hours. If we do have a look at the weather warnings, you can see there is a yellow warning of rain right now, where we do have that heavy rain. Heavy and persistent rain likely to lead to disruption to transport from 2 a.m. today till 10 p.m. So should only really have a few more hours left of this warning. If we do move to Thursday, we do have yellow warnings put in force both Thursday and Friday in southwest Scotland. Heavy rain bringing the risk of flooding and transport disruption. High impact, low likelihood, potentially 40-70 millimetres of rain, potentially 100-150. And again, we've had a look at this over the last few videos, and it's where these weather fronts are going to be coming stationary, as we see high pressure building from the southeast, pushing in against low pressure coming in from the west. So if we do have a look at the GFS to have a look at what is going to be happening with that, you can see the low pressure at the moment pushing away, and you can see ex-Hurricane Sam now, which is still very strong. He's still packing a punch, still got hurricane force winds at the moment. It's staying well offshore to the UK, up towards Iceland and Greenland, but its weather fronts are going to be pushing into the northwest, and that's why we're going to be seeing some quite heavy rain, even though high pressure is slowly building in. With these stationary weather fronts, we could be seeing some quite heavy rain there. Now, initially, we have been looking at the potential for seeing some quite warm weather with this high pressure. Now, initially, it does start off as a bit of a warmer high, as we do pull up some warm air as a result of Hurricane Sam having quite a lot of moisture and warm air within it. However, we are starting to see a pattern as the high pressure sort of rebuilds. We do start to pull in quite a cold air mass by the middle of next week. You can see across the eastern half, we are getting below 0 degrees at 850 HPA, and it could be pretty chilly under there. We could be seeing overnight frost with that, and some quite cold daytime temperatures as well. But it should be dry. That's the one important thing. There may be the few odd showers in the far southeast, where we are closer to this low in Central and Eastern Europe, but it should generally still be high pressure. Beyond that, the high pressure does start to topple, and we do start to pull in warmer air once again. We do see another ex-hurricane push in, and we do see a blast of quite warm air. But again, it'll be very moisture laden, accompanied by this low pressure system. So even though it's quite warm and it might be quite muggy in the day, getting up temperatures into the mid to high teens and really cloudy, muggy, it will probably be quite miserable with rain around as well. And beyond that, it does look like a lot of low pressure is going to be influencing us as the high pressure does break down. But you can still see quite a bit of amplification and ejection with this high trying to build up, and big low polar vortex, or tropospheric polar vortex, is sitting over Scandinavia, which is very, very interesting. That is good signs for the UK if you're looking for a colder winter, as that generally will encourage colder air over Scandinavia, and whenever we do pull in a bit of a northerly or easterly wind, we could be looking at something a little bit colder. So if we do have a look at the GM, see how those compare to the latest GFS, you can see generally high pressure building over the next few days. Quite warm air coming up from the south initially, but as this high rebuilds, we do see northerly winds come in as it shifts a bit further westwards, looking a little bit chilly there for the middle of next week. And then beyond that, we stay westerly, and again, it's a little bit poised between whether we're going to be seeing some colder air from the north starts to try and push in, or whether this low is going to break through this weak high pressure over towards Iceland, and that's something we'll have to keep an eye on longer term. But at this stage, we're just going to keep an eye on what happens with this high pressure and how it does break down, because you can see between the two models, GFS and GM, very different breakdown at day 10. If we do have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare, of course, you can see again, similar over the next few days with the high pressure starting to push in, and then as that high pressure builds back in, we do pull in brief northerly winds, potentially getting some quite cool air, especially in the north and the east. And then again, a sort of weird breakdown with the high pressure starting to push away, but low pressure trying to push in back on off the Atlantic. And again, all really does depend on what happens to this high, whether it does hold on or whether it does slip away very quickly, and we do see a messy or quite a swift breakdown in this high. And that's something we'll have to keep an eye on for sort of the middle to end of next week. So if we do have a look at the GFS Ensembles for London, you can see it is looking very, very dry over the next sort of 7 to 10 days. Now, of course, there will be a few showers around at times, as ever, with a bit of a north or northeasterly wind, and with low pressure still around for the next day or two. You can see, though, as the high pressure does build in by the end of this week, go quite warm, 7, 8, 9, 10 degrees at 850 HPA, generally a good few degrees above average. But then we do see a lot of uncertainty come in. Around the 11th, 12th of October, we do see quite a few ensemble members, including the Operational Run, going quite cold, getting well below freezing at 850 HPA. Others stay quite warm, and the average is coming around to around the 1981, 1910 mean. So at this stage, it still is a bit up in the air exactly what air mass we're seeing. It all depends on how potent that northerly wind is. How much of the high pressure how quickly does the high pressure topple, as that will bring in warmer air back into the Atlantic. You can see in the longer term, generally very, very uncertain, with a lot of scatter, a good sort of 15 degrees spread at the upper air temperatures, and a few precipitation spikes coming in the longer term, but that's pretty normal whenever we're looking at an ensemble chart. There is always a decent chance low pressure is coming in on quite a few of the runs. If you look at the sea level pressure, you can see a big rise over the next few days, and then generally it is slowly dropping off, but that is because we have some lower pressure outliers towards the end of the run, and it generally is high pressure around 1030 millibars, so again, very minimal rain, and should be pretty decent. If we also have a look at the dew point, which gives a good idea of sort of air masses, you can see once we do start to pull in that northerly wind, we do see a colder air mass start to push in on quite a few of the ensembles, getting down to freezing. And again, we'll have to keep updating that nearer the time, because a colder dew point will mean higher chance of frosts, potentially even seeing some maybe a little bit wintry in a few of the showers overnight, maybe in Scotland. If we do have a look at Glasgow, which gives us a good idea what we can see further north, we do start on the dew point. You can see, if we just update it briefly, you can see that we do have quite a cold dew point incoming. At the moment, it is quite warm, getting up to maybe 15 degrees. We do pull in that quite moisture-laden air, and that's why we're going to be seeing some very heavy rain over Scotland over the next few days. 15-degree dew point is very moisture-laden. And then, as we pull in the high pressure, we see it drops considerably down to around 5 degrees, maybe a touch above, touch below, and then even some of those colder ensemble member runs going a bit colder than that. Sea level pressure, you can see generally high pressure is taking hold, but takes a little bit longer in the north as it does in the south in London, as of course we have ex-Hurricane Sam trying to push that away. If we do have a look at the 850 HPA temperature and precipitation, you can see massive precipitation spikes. We see that big rise in temperatures later this week. But that is because we have that moisture-laden air with big weather fronts sort of staying stationary over in the west and the north. Beyond that, generally up and down temperatures, but you can see quite a few of the ensembles that are going quite warm, whereas the Operational Run is going quite cool. And again, have to keep an eye on what happens with this high pressure and its orientation. But generally, for Glasgow, it is looking around or above average for the foreseeable future. A good few dry days there, potentially in the middle of October, before precipitation does look like it will return towards the last third of October. But again, is subject to change. Again, we are right towards the end of the ensemble run, so there is a lot of uncertainty. Now, if we finally do have a look at the UK Met Office run, if we do run through it, you can see at the moment this evening that rain across northern and eastern areas will slowly clear away before we see weather fronts gathering out in the west, bringing the heavy rain for Scotland. But you can see it really is stationary weather front, just giving moisture-laden air all the way up from Ireland, Northern Ireland, into Western Scotland, especially over the Western Hills. That's where we could be seeing the highest rainfall totals, and that's why we have a yellow warning in force. As the weather front eventually does push eastwards, it does break apart and lose a lot of its intensity as high pressure is in control. If we look at the max temperatures, you can see today temperatures have been pretty cool, around 11-12 degrees, as we have had that cold front sweep through last night. Tomorrow afternoon, temperatures may be recovering to around 15-16 degrees, especially in the south, as we do start to pull up some warmer air from the south. Thursday afternoon, could be seeing temperatures 19 or 20 degrees, potentially. Through Friday afternoon, again, maybe 19-20 degrees, feeling quite pleasant. But generally further north and westwards, a little bit cooler. And again, Saturday, maybe 20 degrees, feeling pretty decent. Once again, as we do have high pressure in control with a reasonably warm air mass, before it does look like a cold air mass will probably, at least on quite a few of the ensembles and the operational runs, push in from the north for early to middle of next week. So, had to keep an eye on it, but it is looking dry, which is the important thing, and it's looking fairly pleasant for the end of this week in the south. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you check out my winter sort of look ahead that I've posted earlier, and I'll see you again for another video soon.